So Snoop Dogg was involved in a hostage situation, and it somehow connects to the song Peanut Butter Jelly Time?
It's peanut butter jelly time!
And it all starts with this guy, Jermaine. And Jermaine is 29, living in Las Vegas, and we don't know much about him other than what happens to him on this night. So on this night in 2002, for some reason, he goes absolutely insane. Because he's out on the town doing something, and he ends up confronting this random bystander for some reason. And Jermaine is all pissed off, and suddenly he pulls out a pew-pew, and blam, he fires it. And the bystander is of course scared, and he runs away. Moments later, he sees a police officer, and he flags him down, and he's like, this crazy guy's on the street, and he's shooting a pew-pew. And so the officer gets in his car, and he goes looking for Jermaine. And after a bit, he spots him near a bus stop. So he gets out and he approaches him and he knows he's armed. And so he's like, you're being detained. And the officer grabs him and they get into some kind of fight and they struggle. And then, boom, Jermaine pulls out the pew-pew and blam, blam, he fires it. And one bullet flies through the air and it grazes the officer's head. The other bullet hits the officer in the chest and the officer goes down. But luckily, he survives because he's wearing a bulletproof vest. But right then, another cop pulls up in his car, and so blam, Jermaine shoots at him, and the bullet goes through the windshield and grazes the shoulder of his uniform. But luckily, it doesn't hurt him. And of course, Jermaine knows he's in trouble now, and so boom, he takes off running, and he runs to a nearby apartment complex. And there, I guess he finds a random apartment, and kapow, he forces his way in. And there are two tenants just chilling, and they're like, oh shit, who's this guy? And Jermaine points the pew-pew at them, and he says, actually, I don't know what he says. I couldn't find any information on what exactly he says, but he knows the police are after him. So he takes these two men hostage, and he barricades the front door with a bunch of furniture so that no one can get in. And pretty quickly, police figure out where he is, and they send in a SWAT team. And so now they've got the place surrounded, and it's a whole scene. And police, they go around beating on every door, telling everyone to get out, because they've got to evacuate the whole building until they can apprehend this crazy man. So about an hour goes by, and Jermaine is still in the apartment. He's still holding these guys hostage. And at some point, I guess he gets thirsty, and he leaves the hostages to go in the other room and get a glass of water. And I guess the two men, they see this as their opportunity, and boom, they raise up a nearby window, and they each jump out of it, and they run to safety. Now, since the hostages are now clear, police really want to go busting into this apartment so that they can grab Jermaine and arrest him. But not only is the door still barricaded, but Jermaine is in there firing shots off. So, to avoid any casualties, police are holding back, thinking that they can talk him into surrendering. They got a police negotiator there and everything. But despite that, it's just not working. Jermaine is just not listening. Now, here's where shit gets really weird. At some point during this standoff, Jermaine gets a phone in the apartment and he calls several news stations in the area. I'm not sure why he's calling them specifically or what his goal is, but he calls them. And he informs them that he has a famous brother-in-law that he wants to talk to. That brother-in-law? The D-O-double-G Snoop Doggy Dogg. Apparently Jermaine's sister is actually married to Snoop. So Jermaine wants to talk to him. I guess he thinks Snoop can help him out of this. So of course, the news stations contact the Vegas police. Vegas police hits up the Los Angeles police to help them out, since Snoop apparently lives in Los Angeles County. And so then the Los Angeles police show up to Snoop Dogg's house, like in the middle of the night. And I imagine that they're beating on his door. And bro is probably inside, just chilling, smoking some of that Zaza. And he answers the door, he's probably all tired. And the police are like, Mr. Dogg, your brother-in-law shot a cop, broke into a random apartment and took some hostages. And he specifically wants to talk to you. And I guess Snoop hears all this and he's like, faux shizzle. And so police put Snoop in touch with the police negotiator in Vegas. Police negotiator is like, Mr. Dogg, could you talk to Jermaine and maybe encourage him to give himself up? And so Snoop, he decides to record a message for him. Now, this is in 2002, so there aren't camera phones everywhere. So Snoop makes an audio recording, and in this recording he tells Jermaine to cooperate and give himself up, and his exact words are, "Do what they say, we've got lawyers to take care of this, we'll take care of it." And then they send that tape to the police in Vegas, and somehow, I guess, the Vegas police play it so that Jermaine can hear it. But Jermaine doesn't respond. And now at this point, hours have gone by. It's 10 a.m., so this standoff has been going on for around 11 hours, and Jermaine is still in there. So finally, police are like, "Fuck this, we gotta go in." And so they gather the SWAT team, and boom, they bust into that apartment and they swarm the place. But now Jermaine is hiding in the bathroom, and he's barricaded himself in there somehow. And police, they can't see him in there, but they can hear shots going off with blam, 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 blam. And somehow the SWAT team finds an opening to the bathroom. Maybe through a window, I don't know. But they find an opening and they start throwing tear gas and concussion grenades in there. And okay, so I'm going to pause the story for a second because this is where the peanut butter and jelly song comes in. And so the song, Peanut Butter and Jelly, Peanut Butter Jelly Time, that one.
Peanut butter jelly time.
You know it, it's a viral song. It was a meme song before meme songs were even a thing. This song is a huge hit during this time. It's been used in commercials.
Peanut butter jelly time.
They even made fun of it on Family Guy.
Do the peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly.
Well, right after this song dropped and started blowing up on the internet, some internet lore started to emerge because the internet is just a weird place full of misinformation and bullshit. But the lore says that the guy who sang the song, the guy who sang the vocals that you hear on the Peanut Butter and Jelly Time song, is Snoop Dogg's brother-in-law. And that he ended up going crazy one night, started shooting at police, and broke into an apartment building and took some guys hostage, and then called Snoop Dogg himself to come and help him out. And to this day, you can find this story on blogs and local news websites, and at this point, this is like internet lore canon. But here's the thing, it's not true at all. Yes, Snoop Dogg's brother-in-law Jermaine did go crazy one night and create a hostage situation and call Snoop for help. All that's true, but what's not true is Jermaine did not sing the Peanut Butter and Jelly song. He wasn't involved with the song or the group that made it. In fact, as far as I know, Jermaine isn't connected to making music at all. I don't know how that rumor got started, but there is zero truth to it. Anyway, back to the real Jermaine. So I guess at this point in the story, Jermaine is still barricaded in the bathroom, which is now slowly filling up with tear gas. And I guess he finally realizes that Snoop can't really do much for him and that there's no way he's getting out of this. And that is when he turns the pew-pew on himself and blam, he unalives himself. That is wild. So this teenager got rich by paying homeless people to fight each other. Now the teenager's name is Ryan, with an E. And Ryan's 13, he's going to school in San Diego, and he has a camcorder and he likes to film things. So one day in the 90s, he starts filming his friends skateboarding, like doing kickflips and stuff. And over time, he meets a couple of homeless guys in the area. And these two unhoused guys, they're addicts, and they're intoxicated all the time, and they're sort of known locally for their antics. And at some point, Ryan and his friends start paying these two guys to do stunts, and to sometimes fight each other. And they'll film it, and they offer them a little money, or sometimes they offer them just free beer.
Hey, you want $1? Can you do some stuff for video?
What's that? What you want me to do?
There's some crates back there you can walk into.
And so over the next few years, Ryan and his friends collect all this crazy footage of themselves messing with these homeless guys or just paying them a few bucks to do crazy shit on camera. Now this footage will eventually go on to be the movie Bum Fights, and the stuff they film is absolutely atrocious. Like they light one of the homeless guys on fire, they pay one homeless guy to spray paint another homeless guy while he's asleep.
What do you get away from me, motherfucker? I just want to wrap my name. You don't write it on me.
They pay one of the guys to get the word bum fight tattooed across his knuckles.
BFK for life. Forever.
They pay another one of the guys to get the word bum fights tattooed in big letters across his forehead. And they sometimes just pay these guys to beat the shit out of each other.
I kicked his f***ing ass, and he got a broken ankle, big deal.
They even have a diabolical segment called Bum Hunter.
Hey, I'm Steve Urban, and welcome to another exciting edition of Bum Hunter.
And this is where they have an actor dressed like Steve Irwin, and he goes out and they will capture homeless guys and like duct tape them up.
Just relax, just want to get your measurements here.
And yeah, it's some of the most disgusting behavior you could see, like filming addicts and people who are mentally unwell.
I am mentally disturbed from the military.
Oh, and I'm only describing a fraction of it. There's way worse stuff than that they film. But anyway, in 2001, I think Ryan is 18 at this point, he and 3 of his friends, they form a production company. And they combine the footage of the homeless guy's stunts with footage they got of high school kids fighting. I guess they filmed a bunch of schoolyard fights when they were in high school. And they cut all of this footage together into a movie called Bum Fights Volume 1. And in 2002, they put it on a DVD and they start selling it online. And they're like doing the shipping and everything. And this movie blows the fuck up. Like there are clips of it all over the internet. And the controversy around it is making it go viral, and soon the news is talking about it. Howard Stern shouts it out on his radio show. And of course, all this hype is helping the DVDs sell even more. It's helping sales so much that they actually sell 300,000 copies that first year at $22 a piece. So do the math, and that's $6.6 million. So these teenagers profited millions off of this. Then, that same year, in 2002, Ryan and the 3 guys sell the Bum Fights name and the business for $1.5 million. And they sell it to this guy, Ty. But we'll come back to Ty. Meanwhile, the district attorney's office in San Diego, they catch on to all this hype about this amateur movie. And they're watching it and they're like, oh, we can't let these guys treat homeless people this way. This is disgusting. And so they look for something to charge Ryan and his friends with, and it turns out it's actually illegal in the state of California to pay people to fight. Like you can't arrange a monetized boxing match, not without a permit. And so the DA charges Ryan and his friends with conspiracy to stage an illegal fight. And so, bam, police arrest Ryan and the others. Here's a picture of Ryan in real life. And they plead guilty and they get sentenced to 3 years probation, and they're banned from working together for 3 years, and they're no longer allowed to work with unhoused persons for 3 years. And that is when, of course, they sell the company for $1.5 million to the guy Ty and a business partner of Ty's. Now, the difference between the original owners and Ty is that Ty he's kind of a wild dude.
It is illegal. It's probably wrong in a lot of people's eyes. And the way I look at it is just don't get caught.
Like, bro doesn't give a fuck. He's loud, he's obnoxious, he's kind of a troll. He leans right into this controversy.
People are bored, and I think people want to see something different, something new, something they haven't seen before, something that's going to make them curl up in their seat, something that's going to make them want to puke, something that's going to make them want to go out and maybe knock somebody out.
And bro seems to really love doing media and promoting bum fights.
Are you abusing the homeless with this film?
No, we have a mutually beneficial relationship with the homeless. We have changed a lot of their lives.
And so, under his ownership, he creates 3 more Bum Fights movies. Volume 2, Volume 3, and Volume 4. And I assume they sell moderately well. I actually couldn't find any sales data on them. But anyway, then, in 2006, because these movies are still very controversial, Ty gets invited onto the Dr. Phil show, because I guess Dr. Phil plans on scolding him about the series of Bum Fights movies and how unethical they are, which, yeah, they actually are very unethical. However, like I said, Ty, he's kind of a troll. And when he comes on the show, he comes out dressed as Dr. Phil, and like he shaved his head to look like he's balding just like Dr. Phil. And then Dr. Phil watches a promo of Bum Fights with his audience before they get to Ty's segment. And Dr. Phil immediately kicks Ty off the show.
Stop the tape. Stop the tape. I don't want to talk to you.
Why not?
That's despicable. I don't want to talk to you. You can go.
Now, it goes without saying, Dr. Phil, he's kind of a turd himself. Like, he didn't just watch that footage for the first time in front of his audience. All that stuff is planned by him and his producers beforehand. So that means Dr. Phil and his writers watched the bum fights footage before this taping and were like, wouldn't it be cool if we brought Ty on stage and then kicked him off the show right in front of the audience? And so that's what Dr. Phil does. He kicks him off, making it look improvised, but it's definitely not. They planned it. However, before Ty leaves the set, he drops the best truth bomb on Dr. Phil anyone has ever dropped on him.
If you think I exploit people, every time you bring a guest on this show, you exploit them and spread whatever problems they have to the whole world. You think that's helping them?
I mean, yeah, Ty is a terrible guy, but he's not wrong here. I mean, that's exactly what Dr. Phil's show does. Anyway, so then they escort Ty off the show, just like I'm sure they planned. And after that, you don't really hear much about Ty or bum fights. I guess the phenomenon kind of fizzles out over the years. But Ryan, on the other hand, he and his 3 friends, they actually get sued over bum fights for $6 million. And they get sued by those 2 original homeless guys they used to film, and one other homeless guy who was also in the movies. And they sue him and 3 other producers, and they end up settling out of court for an undisclosed amount. And Ryan and the producers end up paying the 3 homeless guys allegedly a really large amount of money. So, good for them, I guess? Remember when this famous athlete destroyed his career by lying about a robbery? Now, his name is Ryan, and Ryan is 32 during this time, and he's a very well-known Olympic swimmer. The dude has 5 gold medals. He's like a hero to little kids and shit. But one night in 2016, he screws it all up. Because the Summer Olympics are happening in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. And boom, Ryan wins yet another gold medal, because of course he did. And afterwards, he decides to go out with some of his teammates and celebrate. And so they head over to a party, where they drink a ton with a bunch of other athletes. And hours go by, and it's now 5 in the morning. And these guys are still out partying, because I guess it's just that kind of night. But eventually, Ryan and 3 of his fellow swim buddies are done. They've had their fun. And so they call a taxi to take them back to the Olympic Village where they're staying. And these 4 guys, now they're in this taxi heading back, and the taxi stops at a gas station on the way. And the 4 guys get out and they go to the restroom. Now, for some reason, that reason is probably alcohol, Ryan and the other guys, they start acting like dicks. They break the restroom door, they apparently break the soap dispenser off the wall, they damage a mirror, and they tear down a "Please do not enter" sign off the wall. And here's actually some security footage of the guys exiting the restroom afterwards. And to top it all off, Ryan ends up peeing outside in public. But whatever, when they're done, they get back into their taxi like nothing ever happened. But then, I guess the gas station workers discover the damage, and they're like, what the fuck? And so they go over to Ryan's taxi and order Ryan and the 3 bros to get out. Then these armed security guards show up, and they're like, you have to pay for the damage you did now, or else we're calling the police. Here's the thing though. The security guards are speaking Portuguese, and Ryan and his friends, they don't speak Portuguese, so they have no idea what's going on. And so a local bystander who just happens to also speak English, he starts translating for them. And it turns out one of the security guards tells them to sit down until all this is figured out. Now Ryan and his swim bros, they're still pretty drunk, and they're also all scared. And so 3 of them are like, sure, whatever, here's some money. And they hand over $20 to pay for the damage. And another one of them hands over 100 reals, which is like the equivalent of $30 US. And Ryan, he doesn't hand them anything. He's not about to be extorted. And so he stands back up and he starts yelling at the guards, like he didn't do anything wrong. And all this commotion starts to cause a scene. Now, allegedly, and this part is in dispute, but allegedly, then the security guard pulls out his pew-pew. And he tells Ryan to chill the fuck out. And so, Ryan chills out. And ultimately, the swimmers are allowed to get in the taxi and leave. Then, they go back to their Olympic Village where they're staying. And they go to bed thinking, well, that sucked. We were just goofing around and we got confronted by gas station security guards. But whatever, not a big deal. It's not like anyone's ever gonna know. Until Ryan talks to this woman. His mom. Now, Ryan's mom is also in Rio de Janeiro, probably to see her son compete in the Olympics. But at some point, somehow, while she's there, she breaks her foot. And so anyway, at some point that day, Ryan is talking to his mom, and he tells her what happened the night before, but he exaggerates the story. And he tells his mom that he was robbed at gunpoint. Later, his mom is out, and she gets on a local shuttle bus, and she sits down, and a guy sitting next to her notices she's got a hurt foot, and he asks her if she's okay, and they start chatting. And she tells the guy that her trip to Brazil sucks because she broke her foot, and also because last night her son Ryan got robbed at gunpoint, because that's what he had told her. Now that guy she's talking to just happens to be an Australian reporter. And so this Australian reporter is like, oh shit, an Olympic athlete got robbed at gunpoint? Crikey! And so he goes and he tweets, breaking news, gold medalist Ryan Lochte has been held up at gunpoint at a party in Brazil. And then, of course, the rest of the media starts printing the story and they run with it. But then it gets worse. Because around the same time, Ryan happens to run into this guy, Billy Bush. And Billy Bush is the TV host, and he's also the same Billy Bush who was on those Access Hollywood grab him by the pussy tapes years ago with the president. Same guy. But anyway, Billy Bush is also in Rio de Janeiro for the Olympics, and he coincidentally runs into Ryan, and he wants to get an interview. And in this interview, Billy asks him about this news he had heard about him getting robbed. And Ryan starts to exaggerate the story again. He says he got robbed by some cops.
They pulled us over, they pulled out their guns, and then the guy pulled out his gun, he cocked it, put it to my forehead, and said, get down, and he took our money, he took my wallet.
He then reiterates this robbery story on Twitter. And so now, the news media, instead of talking about the Olympics, they're talking about how this athlete got robbed in Brazil by guys pretending to be cops.
U.S. gold medalist Ryan Lochte and 3 of his swimming teammates say they were held at gunpoint when men posing as police swarmed their taxis.
Now, of course, this is a huge international story, and so Brazilian police start investigating, and they start asking the swim bros questions about what happened, like, why didn't you report the crime right away? And funny enough, none of them could remember the details, like what color the taxi was they were in. Now at this point, Brazilian police are looking at security footage of Ryan and the guys from that morning when they had just returned to the Olympic Village. And they're thinking, these guys don't look like they were just robbed. And so eventually they get suspicious, and they order Ryan and the other 3 bros passports to be taken until they can get to the bottom of the robbery that they believe might be made up. However, lucky for Ryan, he had already left Brazil and flown back to the US. But 2 of the other guys hadn't left Brazil yet, and so they're questioned, and immediately they admit that Ryan had greatly exaggerated this robbery story. They weren't robbed by guys pretending to be the Brazilian police. They were confronted by gas station security guards after they roughed up a bathroom. Then, a few days later, Brazilian police find the gas station this took place at, and they get surveillance footage from the security cameras, which confirms that, yeah, the robbery story was made up. And so they hold a press conference telling the world Ryan's story was bullshit. And of course, this scandal blows the fuck up. I mean, it is everywhere. It's all over the news. It's all over the internet. This is easily one of the biggest stories of 2016. And so then Ryan, he's got to do the embarrassing thing and like apologize, and he makes an Instagram post and he apologizes there, and then he goes on the Today Show and does it there.
That's why I'm taking full responsibility for it, because I over-exaggerated that story, and if I never done that, we wouldn't be in this mess.
And as a result of his actions, the Olympic Committee suspends him from swimming in competitions for 10 months, and he loses a ton of money because he loses like 4 major sponsorships. And in Brazil, Ryan is actually charged with false reporting a crime, but ultimately those charges get dropped. And unfortunately for him, at the end of all of this like really screwed up his whole career. It was insane. And a huge shout out to Leonardo.ai for sponsoring this video. If you want to make really cool art for your videos or just for your life like this or like this, then sign up for Leonardo.ai.